All right, so we want to look at a couple of examples here as we convert from polar form to rectangular form. And this is actually the easy one because the formulas are very direct. X equals r cosine theta, y equals r sine theta. So we just use those formulas and everything is pretty straightforward, right? So x is just r times the cosine of the angle. And here we would say, well, 2 pi over 3 would be in the second quadrant, where we know cosine is negative, or cosine we know is negative. So we'll have a negative 3, and then that would give us a reference angle of pi over 3, or 60 degrees. We know cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. So that would be negative 3 times 1/2, or negative 3/2. And in a similar fashion, y would just be r times the sine of theta. Sine is positive. Sine is positive in the second quadrant. Reference angle against pi over 3, or 60 degrees. Sine of pi over 3, or 60 degrees, is square root of 3 over 2. So this would actually be 3 times square root of 3 over 2, or 3 square roots of 3 over 2. So we'd have the coordinates negative 3, 2, 3 square root of 3 over 2. Okay? So it's kind of pretty straightforward. Now, this one's a little more confusing. We're given r equals a negative 1. That's not a big deal. But the angle is 2.1. Okay? So it's not expressed in terms of pi. It's expressed as a decimal. Right? So, but that's just 2.1 radians. There's no degree symbol or anything there, so we know it's not degrees. So that's just 2.1 radians. So this really just becomes a calculator problem here now as we approximate. Minus 1 times the cosine of 2.1, just making sure that your calculator is in radian mode. Make sure your calculator is in radian mode. I'm just checking that mine is. And now I can go in minus 1, and I need to go back to trig stuff. Cosine minus 1 times cosine of 2.1. So there we are. And I'm just going to round that off, say to 3 places, 0.505. Okay, 0.505. And likewise, y would be negative 1 sine of 2.1. And again, I'll just punch that into a calculator. Minus 1 times the sine of 2.1. And there you get negative 0.863. Okay, so now we have our x and y coordinates. And this time we're just approximating because that's really all we can do, because 2.1 is not an exact value for our sine and cosine functions. And so we would just go with that value as it is.